Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another masterpiece with me, Mr. Cool Place. Now not to stall too much because we have plenty of builds to go through today, as today I want to show you every Minecraft build style. Well, not everyone, but the more relevant ones, right? The more popular Minecraft build styles. So our first build style here today is a rustic house. Now you've probably seen many of these as it is quite a common build style. They're usually quite simple to make. They look something like this. Most people put like an oak framing around the edges and the corners of the walls. It's meant to look a bit worn down, a little bit old maybe. You know, like it was built there quite a while ago, and you can use whatever kinds of blocks you want. I used a mixture of different kinds of blocks for this one. I used some stone with its variants, and then I used some mud for a little section here, and then the top half of the house is all diorite and birch log, as I think that looks really nice. Yeah, this is sort of the main kind of block palette you would use for this kind of house. You can use different kinds as well, but I find that these blocks work the best. So basically, what is a rustic house? Is basically an old house, you know, so like old cottages and stuff would be deemed as rustic maybe, or if you live in Europe you'll probably find a lot of rustic houses. Sorry to the Americans. Yeah, that's it for the rustic house. Let's move over to our next build style that we have here, and this build took me a long time. This is a medieval build. Now you can make a medieval house and they look a little bit different to these medieval like churches or medieval towers and castles, but towers and castles usually fall under medieval, and so I wanted to showcase like a tower or a castle in this. So as you can see, it's quite simple when it comes to the shape. Most medieval builds are square and rectangular, so it shouldn't really be too hard to make. You can make the tower like circular, that works as well. More attention should probably go towards the texturing of a medieval build because you want to make it look a bit worn down. You want to make it look old, right? And again, the time frame for medieval builds, I guess, I don't know, 500 years ago, something like that. I'm just throwing around numbers, but I mean, you know, 11th century, 15th century, right? All of these, this is like the time frame for these medieval builds. And again, if you live in Europe, you'll probably find a lot of these castles scattered around. What you can do to maybe spice it up a little bit, as these do often have big flat walls, is maybe add in some gradients and stuff. So this is like the main sort of block palette I would recommend. All of the stone types, all the grays, and then some woods, of course, to complement them, but not too light. I think these darker woods really work well. Next up, we have a more recent build style, and that is steampunk. Ever since copper got added, people have been mad about steampunk. I never tried steampunk before. This is my first attempt at steampunk, and I think it looks really nice. Now, you don't have to make a building this big and this detailed, but I did because, yeah. But steampunk really is just meant to be like this build that has lots of cogs and lots of chimneys, and it just looks like it's doing something, you know, like perhaps a windmill or something like that, you know. Make room for lots of cogs and lots of spinny bits and clocks and stuff, and it will look very steampunky. Of course, steam or smoke always helps when it comes to steampunk. This is, I think the time frame for this would be maybe the 18th, 19th century, although not that there's any buildings that look like this in real life. But anyway, moving on to our next build style here, and this is more simplistic. This is a bit easier to pull off, and that is modern. Now, I'm no expert when it comes to modern. I don't really build too much modern, but like the main sort of gist of it is really just to make a whole lot of rectangles and squares using basically grey, dark grey and white. And that's really it. There's not really too much to it, right? If you really break it down, I have one rectangle here, another portion here, another portion here, another portion here, and just like put them all together and see what you get. That should be a modern build. There's not really much to talk about when it comes to modern builds. They involve a lot of glass, so you know, get some glass. And yeah, that's it really for modern. Moving on to our next build style, and I'm no expert at this as well, but this is Japanese. And again, I gave this my first try, and I think it looks quite nice. The main sort of blocks you want to use are mangrove and these sort of red blocks. They look really nice. Then the whites, and then some grays, as well as maybe some dark browns. And yeah, just take some inspiration from Japanese builds. There's plenty of them to go about in Japan. Sorry if you live anywhere else. I don't even live in Japan. Yeah, there's lots on Google, okay? But there's also lots in Japan. Now, the main thing when it comes to Japanese builds is that you want to nail this sort of roof shape, where it starts off really steep, and then it sort of flattens out, and it goes even a bit up, actually, towards the end. Maybe make some banners. Banners are always nice. They have plenty of them in Japan as well. And yeah, mangrove wood, white and grey and brown. That's it. That's sort of your main block palette. Now, moving on to our next build over here. This is a fantasy build. Now, the downside with fantasy builds is that they don't exist in real life. So you're just gonna have to take some inspiration from non-real life stuff. I mean, there are buildings similar to this in real life, but fantasy is all about being very, very out there, So this build, I guess, could sort of be considered medieval. I think that's the sort of time frame the fantasy builds take place in as well. But as you can see, I added some mushrooms, these big mushrooms, to make it look more fantastical, and made the roof really, really vibrant to make it look, again, more fantastical, more fairy tale-y. You get me, right? And of course, some flags always help, right? I mean, yeah. That's it really when it comes to fantasy. Try out some different vibrant blocks and different colors of stuff, and it doesn't have to be a tower. It can be like a mushroom as well. You can just build a giant mushroom and live in it. That would be fantasy as well. A lot of different kinds of builds actually fall under the umbrella of fantasy. Yeah, I just suggest giving something like this a go. Adding these sort of like crazy shapes and overhangs always helps. But yeah, that's it really. So moving over to our next build over here. This is I don't even know what I would call this, to be honest, but I saw a lot of people building like this recently. Yeah, let me know what this is called. I'm not really sure, but it's like this sort of, I don't know, urban sort of city apartment block building thingy, but like an old-fashioned one. So from like the late 19th to the early 20th century, you'd be seeing these kinds of buildings. You might see some of these in old parts of New York or other older cities. They're not too old, but just like a little old, like old enough, like 200 years old. Make sure to use these sort of pastel colors. They look really, really nice, like these sort of, instead of like green concrete, use like green terracotta, because that looks less saturated, and that's sort of the feel that we're getting at, right? You want it colorful, but not very saturated. The windows are done with birch trap doors, as you can see. They look really, really nice in my opinion. And yeah, just stack a few together. It's really simple, really. It's just rectangles, and yeah, that's it. Maybe a chimney or two could be added. And then, of course, these sort of market stalls on the front of them. So if this was some kind of street in the city, you could sell your veggies there, something like that, I just thought of an extra detail. Let me just add it in here. I just built this kind of quickly, so that's why there's no details. But barrels also look nice. Just add in some barrels there as well. But there's not really much to say. Just use some terracotta. These sort of pastel colors are really, really nice. That's all for this build style. I'm not even sure what this is called, but that's all for it. And moving on to our final one. And again, this is a more popular one now, a more modern one now. This is a cyberpunk build. And yes, that is a dinosaur face. I accidentally made the dinosaur face, so I decided to put in some eyes. And yeah, it looks stupid, but I like it. But yeah, this is a cyberpunk build. And I really, really, really like Cyberpunk now. I've never built Cyberpunk before, and I really like it now. All it really is again, like, it's sort of very similar to the modern build, except that it's very vibrant, right? You're not using grayscale, but using these sort of vibrant colors, and I really, really like it. And again, give it plenty of antennas, of course, because, the Cyberpunk people really want internet. I think this worn down Cyberpunk really, really looks nice. So, like, Cyberpunk, but after, like, a natural disaster or something like that, just, like, it being worn down really, really adds in that extra texture to it. It looks really, really nice. I really, really like it. Of course, you could just make it all one color, like just make this orange concrete instead, and it won't look worn down. It'll look new. But I think this really adds something to it, and especially this. I really, really love this. I really, really love this build. And of course, add in some bits and bobs. You want to make it look like it's full of stuff and pipes, and yeah, just make it look, just fill it with things. Just put things on top of it, things to the side of it, and just make it look busy. I think Froglights popularized this, to be honest, because after Froglights were added, everyone's building Cyberpunk, man. But yeah, there's not much more to say about this, and let me know if I left out your favorite build style, because there are some more, like, that I forgot to mention, like futuristic, but that's basically Cyberpunk. And I don't know what else, like the Dirt House. I forgot about the Dirt House, sorry. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you again in another video. So, bye. And sorry it's a little bit late. Next video won't be so late. Bye.